3. Hey everyone, how are you today? It is Tuesday, I want to say. Yeah, it's Tuesday. Wow, the week's going by. I thought it was like Wednesday, which is everyone's favorite day of the week because it's just considered the middle of the week. And it's like, I guess like you're going over a hill and then it goes like that and then it goes back down and then you're like over here, which is really cool because now you're like, oh my gosh, it's almost Friday. That's how I used to get through school. A little fun fact. Every day of the week would be like, oh my god, it's almost Tuesday, and Tuesday is like this part of the week, which is close to this part, which gets more exciting as it goes. So I guess I created my own climax, if you may, throughout the entire week, especially when the middle hit, which would really mean for me that the end's coming, which is good. Everyone likes when the end comes. So welcome today in today's video with the 10-minute little podcast that I do with Restroom. That's what we get today. So I'm going to put this back here. Oof, big mess. Wow. Sometimes I can barely handle myself. I'm getting crazier as the day goes on, and I'm very thankful to be here today. And as we know, we're all a little bit strange in different ways. And right now, there's been a lot of the energies aligning. The moon is like going in its distance and it's making sure that everything works out for us. So you know what we're going to do today? We're going to talk about a man named Gerald. And this man is a little bit crazy. His name is Gerald Gardner. Gerald Gardner. Just want to double check because he has like a mystical name. He's like literally, he looks like a mystic. Looks like the crazy guy with the party hat inside of a video game that you've played before. The guy maybe out of Lumbridge. Maybe even if you've watched Lord of the Rings, he sort of reminds you of Gandalf with his little twisty goatee. Mind you, they're both wizards. And Gerald, a little bit more of a different wizard than Gandalf himself. So as Gandalf traveled through the land of the elves, the dwarves, and everyone else in between, the orcs, Gerald started his life just doing what everyone else does, working, catering for people, and making sure that they have a good community around England. Now Gerald, being at the hierarchy of his time, worked with different types of people. For an example, there were African people. There were indigenous people as well too that would come into England, and they weren't necessarily brought there and like made to work because they're treated like actual people, but really because they were slaves. And Gerald didn't like this. He loved the way that they worked, so I guess maybe in a way he liked that he got to see the weapons they used, the tattoos, and everything else about them. And I feel maybe this is why people grow goatees. It makes you more wise, makes you connect with everyone else, and the type of goatee he had made him look like someone that was out of a storybook. So when this man goes out and he talks to other people, he's really open about them and wants to learn more, which is really cool. He doesn't like when people are being abused, so what he did was actually ask them questions and get to know them a little bit better, which is what you do when you want a friend, right? So after work, what everyone did, even if you were a slave, even if you were a regular person, you would go out and do what you wanted to. Many people would go out and drink. Many people would do what their community does. And what Gerald does is he actually goes and hangs out with these different tribes. So in his journey, he would hang out with the Dayak indigenous tribe. He would later get a tattoo, which is seen on his forearm, of a large snake. He would go to do son seances. That's a really difficult word for me to get out there. Do seances. So these were healing rituals that he would go to. And he enjoyed them. He got to meet people. And the spirituality in it, I guess he really clicked with. And maybe he was breaking a big stigma, which I think maybe back in the day, he was just doing what any normal person should do and communicate with other people. Instead of like, hey, do you not want to have a beer with me? Do you not want to go smoke that cigarette? Do you not want to come with me and hang out for a little bit? After doing all the Doosan seances and then going back to work at this rubber plantation, having a lot of difficulty with it, getting sacked from other jobs that were similar to it, but ultimately in the end, he went out and he moved to Singapore. He was really sick of all the racist comments and remarks that they would make towards the indigenous communities and everyone else. As we know, Britain isn't really the best place to get away from racism. If you want to be a racist, it's really easy to go over there and be one. How badass is it, though, that this man actually, we may have been one of the first white men out there. Like British people, Europe people, other than maybe the Nordic people, I'm not too sure, to actually have a tattoo. This man, this man was top tier. He was the hierarchy of any tradition that has ever been out there for white people getting tattoos. So as we know, Gerald having a long goatee. It was probably white at this time. He's getting older. I mean, like, he was born in, like, around the 1900s. Maybe even a little bit earlier. And when I mean earlier, he was actually born in 1884. Which makes this man quite old to us. That's over 100 years old today. Over 100 years old. Or pretty much just about. He did later leave Singapore, only to go back and talk to his father, who had dementia, I guess, to see him. And his mother died, and all this was going on, and it really breaks my heart to know that someone goes through this, but we all as people do. What happened is after everyone started dying, he had like these spiritual like feelings and like stuff happened to him in life. Maybe it has something to do with like maybe like an entity or really like an orb, some type of spirit around him. So he actually really was quite well endowed in that way. Like this man was packing a big one for the spirits. But this man had an even bigger package sent and delivered to a medium that he did later marry quite quickly before he did his other extraordinary adventures across different parts of the country. This man traveled far and wide. He traveled into some people, some mediums, even to some spirits. This guy's been in every single area of life. He's been in things that are alive, things that are dead, and he's just enjoying his life freely at this point. When I say fast for a marriage, I mean Gerald. He married this lady literally the same day. Well, realistically, the next day, but like, that's not a big deal, right? Getting married the day after meeting someone. Pretty much right after his honeymoon in France, shortly after, he went all the way to Malaya to witness the magical acts that the locals and the communities would bring together for spirituality reasons. He readily accepted the idea of magic inside of himself. He really loved it. By the 1930s, this man moved from doing his just common acts as a civil servant, civil duty man, and moved out of town, hung out with his archaeologist friends, and met some pagan people as well, too. They had a lot of fun together, and they actually achieved friendship throughout archaeology missions. He hung out with his friends back in Asia again, where he pretty much started everything, and then he moved back all the way to England to start his life, and I guess pretty much end it here at this point. Before Gerald went and moved back to England and to the European countries, I guess, where he wanted to go, he checked out Palestine and many other places where he was hanging out with pagan goddesses, I guess, to just check them out. Ashtoreth from Palestine. He went to Turkey, Greece, and Hungary, and Germany as well, too. So he adventured everywhere in between. And as we know, Palestine is huge for historical values. And yeah, I mean, Ishtar is really cool, too. Like, that's a part of the, I would call it like the sarcophagus of history, which is all about the magic and those types of practices, which is written in a lot of good shows too, like even Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh's a good show. You better watch it. No, it's pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, I grew up watching it. If you want to be sent to the Shadow Realm, you can duel me if you want to one day. cutting this video a little bit short to end it off. Either accept my challenge or I surrender. So, Gerald, he went all the way back to England later on in his life. This would be like a 50-minute documentary, and I'm just a guy sitting in front of a camera talking to people. So what I'll do is just leave it at, hey, like this guy, what he did was go back to England, and he found Wicca more appealing in an aspect which was, I guess, sort of new for people. It wasn't huge. There were one or two stores maybe around that he's probably seen for magic, anything in between. It was really to have that spirituality where he first started with the indigenous tribes with these seances and such, right? They would speak, they would like take their flowers and do stuff with them. They love smells, right? Breathe in, breathe out, anything. Do it. Breathe in positivity. Negativity is exhale. There was a museum in the Isle of Man, and there were a couple of other places that he visited. He worked inside of the museum and helped it out as well too. Of course, this man traveled everywhere. He was pretty much an archaeologist of spirituality, maybe even ancient deities as well too. He did pick up some memorabilia like coins and some pieces of paper on his way. As you can imagine, this man went around everywhere. When he got back to the Isle of Man, this is really where his life settled down. There are some interviews, though, that I will just throw out there just to show everyone, hey, like, some of the things that this man actually went through were quite bizarre. He said at one point during one of the interviews, he was sent into a room, and this isn't for, like, a news article. He was actually sent in there with a group of people, like a tribe. He really didn't know who they were or anything about them. He just goes in there. And what happens is they are just naked women everywhere. It was like something out of like ancient Scandinavia, or maybe if I really want to think hard about it, the movie Midsummer, wherever they're from. If you've watched Midsummer, check it out. It's a really good movie. And it'll give you an idea of what happened at like the age of like 65 or like 50. People have to commit suicide. They have to die. Even if they don't want to. They're standing at the edge of the cliff being like, hey, like, I don't know, like, I don't know if I want to do this or not. Like, I don't know if I want to die today. I just don't really, it just doesn't feel like the day. He would hang out in his house with other people out back. He would have hedges on either side of his house, and he had like a badminton court, and he would invite the men over. Everyone would get naked. They'd hang out, do their thing. I'm not sure if children were involved with it. I don't know. There are family members that go out to nude. There's like literally, if I go down the street from me and like just outside of my city, there's a nude beach. And like people go there with their families. It's literally a family nude beach. Yeah, you get to see families naked. It's not sexual. It's like, I guess maybe it's spiritual, right? So he did that. And yeah, I guess this is where I really want to leave it off. He was one of the first people to get tattoos as a white man. He was also sent into a room with naked women, which is, I would instantly, and then he went to the Isle of Man, so I wonder if that has any correlation with it. And Isle of the Man was one of the first places in the world, and in Europe anyways, in England, that I know of, to actually allow women to vote. Although it wasn't a huge place, it was a place that was there for women. This man loved to be open with people. So I'm sure that the women were an extremely good part of his life. Maybe him and his wife had like some extra fun time with the parties they held. Like, yeah, I could imagine too. He also had a part of World War II, actually, in ending World War II. And the way that Gerald did this was start doing a seance, a ritual with his people that he brought together. And they stoked the fire. They stoked it so big. It went up and it like poofed into the sky and it went over the seas, right, to stop the Germans' view so they couldn't go in and like start shooting people. Like when you throw a smoke grenade in Call of Duty, if they have smoke grenades in that, I play Battlefield. So I would throw that, and then it just blocks everything off. Unless the person has, like, a hypo, like, thermal, eyesight. They have Hawkeye going on. They won't be able to see through that at all. So this man potentially actually ended World War II. He helped support the ending of, I don't even want to say the person's name, but the evil person from Germany at that point. And yeah. Well, thank you very much for watching my 15-minute video. Usually these are 10-minute podcasts. If you like the video, please like it. Check out my other videos. I pretty much put anything out there that I can at this moment. I'm new. I'm starting up with this. And yeah, people like new, right? So, I get a little stressed out, but I'm thankful that I'm here. And even if you just watch this video to do what you do, leave a like, leave a comment, leave something really bizarre that you think like maybe a Wiccan person does. Like, I've worked with sage, which is really cool. But maybe there's a different type of sage that like, there's like a bacon sage, like summons things that, no, I'm a vegetarian. I don't want that. Yeah, I don't, get that away from me. Ugh, ugh. Yeah, I just want like, maybe there's a vegetarian sage. Maybe I can just burn sage and then a vegetarian ghost will come to me and say hi. But yeah, thank you very much for watching and I hope you have a really freaky day.